Hello and welcome to the Our Metroidvania podcast. This is Cauldrath from the Our Metroidvania subreddit and Discord.
Hi, this is Master. I'm also from there.
Hi, I'm Atcero, and I am also from there.
And today the gameplay is pre-recorded footage from my initial blind playthrough of Katana Zero. So this isn't a Metroidvania, but it's a 2D platformer focusing on like tight controls and stuff like that. And we figured it would be a good example for talking about controls.
That's right, we're talking about controls.
And controlling
Controllers.
Yeah.
What?
So go ahead.
What makes controlling a character feel good in a platformer?
Well, there's a bunch of different ways that it can feel good. Like sometimes you just want to have it feel really responsive. Although some games you want it to feel like a little bit more weighty, and so you kind of like let up on the responsiveness a little bit. So it just depends on what you're going for.
Yes. But it is very important that you get this right because people will often not want to play a game if it has poor controls. Like the main reason people won't play Super Metroid, it seems like, is because they think the way the character moves feels bad.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
I don't think I've actually ever heard anyone complain about Super Metroid's controls and how
Really?
Samus feels. Yeah. I mean, I
People
always.
complain about that.
Yeah, I hear
Really?
it all the time.
Damn, I'm out of loop. You pet the cat. Alright. Good job.
It's important.
It is.
You can
See-
just quit the game at this point.
Also, yes, not only do people care about controls, people care about petting animals. So if you don't have the control to pet an animal in a game, people will not like that.
Yeah, like Genshin Impact, people complain about that all the
I'm
time.
so mad about that. Let me pet the dogs. But yeah, I would say controls are probably the most fundamental thing in any video game. Like, if you don't have good controls, you, in my opinion, can't have a good game, sadly.
Well, what games do you like that you would say have terrible control or just subpar control?
So all the ones that are like really story based, like a lot of the Telltale games don't have very good controls. The I forget what the other names of them are, but like the people who made Too Human or not Too Human, Detroit Become Human,
Oh yeah.
like Two Souls.
Well, I wouldn't say those controls are bad. It's just not an action game.
Yeah, it's not
It's
the
a
focus.
narrative game,
Yeah.
so it doesn't really need the controls.
So you would say if your game is more story focused, the controls matter a lot less.
Yeah, I mean, I would. Depending on the kind of game. If it's more of a novel, kind of like the Telltale games are to a degree, and Detroit Come Human, it never really focused on the gameplay. Its gameplay was secondary.
Right. Gameplay was just there to like get you to the thing. It's kind of like experiential, where the controls are there to like convey, like to make you feel something rather than to like be responsive to your actions. Like the focus isn't on like skill or anything like that. It's kind of like all the like quick time events in God of War, where it's like this isn't supposed to be hard. It's just supposed to be like make it feel more brutal.
Yeah.
Or quick time events. I mean, they're a way you control your character. Is any way that you control your character are those controls, or would you limit what controls are to something smaller, like just movement inputs?
I would say controls are something that you specifically literally control. Like, to me, QuickTime events really aren't controls. They're just, in my opinion, sadly, they're kind of... For, like, they give you the feeling of control without actually being in control. It's like a glorified cutscene is all QuickTime events are, to me at least. So I don't consider those controls much. I consider controls you being able to control everything your character can do in a given time.
Okay, so if it's something that you can do at almost any given time, maybe it's contextual, but you can choose when or when not to do it. That is a control.
Yes, to me at least.
I think there's kind of a spectrum there. Like there's like context sensitive controls, which are kind of in between, where you can only do the action if you're right next to the thing.
Yeah, that's true. Like, oh, talk to this NPC. Or use this chest and open it.
Yeah. Yeah, like this game has a context sensitive button, the Y button.
Slow down.
No, slowdown is R2.
Oh.
Or right trigger. So yeah, you can do that anytime, unless it's like specifically locked. Actually, this game kind of has like semi cutscene things. Like right now is that was that was kind of like a quick time event. Like it's a press this button to progress in the cutscene, but it's like a slow time event where it doesn't really matter if you do it at the right time. And then there's also scenes where you just like walk around and don't have full control of your character. Like you don't have your full abilities, but you can still like move left and right and use the context sensitive command. And then there's also like this game has a bit of an interesting thing with the conversation trees where you can like interrupt people before it gets to the selection, or you can just like wait until the end. But it seems like it just like chooses whatever you have selected if it runs out of time. But some games have like conversation trees where it'll have like the dialogue options, then a timer, and if you let the timer expire, then that is considered like you just said nothing, and then that's like an additional hidden dialogue option.
Like the Dark Brotherhood side quest in Oblivion and Skyrim, where you can just choose to remain silent the whole time.
Well, that's a like dialogue option, isn't it? It's just like
yeah,
ellipses.
because there's no time in any of the Elder Scrolls.
Yeah. But I think that adding time to conversation trees kind of adds an interesting dynamic to it. Like, if you're trying to make somebody make a decision quickly, then it can add like some additional tension.
I agree. Also, of people who will Google what choice to make in a game that presents two choices in dialogue, and if you can't pause it and you have a timer, people will be forced to actually make their own decision.
Right. Or they just reload their last save.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I hate arbitrary decisions that affect game later. But, that's not usually a problem in games though. Most game developers seem to be aware of that.
Well, if your decisions don't do anything, then that means they're not meaningful.
Yes, but you should be generally aware of what making a decision will do when you make the decision, or else it just feels like you're guessing.
Yeah, but that's like real life.
True. So if I could Google what consequences my decisions would have in real life, I'd probably do that constantly.
Reload last save.
Just right before your exam, you just save it and then take your exam, and then get your results back and like, oh, I got all these wrong. Reload, save, just put in all the right answers.
Exactly.
Greatest superpower. Just remember to back up your saves.
I believe Rick and Morty had a episode.
Yeah.
Oh god.
Oh yeah.
It's the trifecta of animated comedy show, social commentary, and video game metaphor. And I don't like any of those things.
You don't
That
like
is
video
fair.
game metaphors? Or
What?
social commentaries?
Well, no, it's that I don't like those in that combination.
Oh, okay.
When you have, oh, life is just like a video game, and saving and that kind of thing.
Well, they did it just because Rick hates time travel. Like, that was the whole joke, is like, no, I'll never do time travel. So he doesn't do time travel, he does something else.
Something terrible.
The Vat of Acids episode. It actually won an Emmy too, I think, or something dumb like that. Whatever it is.
Interesting.
So yeah, controls.
Control the Metroidvania.
How about this? Like, what are your guys' preferred controls? Like, or how a character in a game or a Metroidvania?
Zero and Mega Man X5.
Have not played.
I have not played that either. I'm not
That's
too
nice.
picky. You know, I'll play Super Metroid. I actually like the floatiness of that game.
It makes sense for space.
But you're not in space.
But you're on a planet that probably has less gravitational force than what we're used to, and Samus is in a big badass suit that, and I mean, she's fucking strong as hell, so I mean, she's gonna be able to jump and get past that, so she's gonna be floatier, I feel. Like, it just kind of makes sense in the way of Metroid.
How high can the strongest people jump? Just
you want me to Google
straight
this?
up.
You want me to
Yeah.
Google? Okay.
Like standing straight up, what's
It is
the highest someone can get?
tallest standing. 65 inches.
Keep
The
in mind that
highest-
the way they do that is they like torque their entire body like just get their center of mass over it. So like they couldn't really effectively platform the way they jump.
Oh, this
Well,
is
I guess they could like land on their side.
This guy did 47. No, he did a straight up jump. So yeah,
Wow.
Like landed on his feet.
47 inches.
But could he have? So if you're platforming, you're not jumping straight up though. You'd be jumping
You'd be
like
doing
up
long
and
jumps,
forward to a
essentially.
platformer. Maybe not long jumps, but if you were trying to jump to something higher, you'd still, some of that distance would be lost because you're putting some of that muscle to work to go a direction that's not up. That was a really convoluted way of saying what I wanted to say. I'm sorry.
I think it works.
But yeah, like jumping in platformers is never going to be realistic.
Yeah.
Like I guess you're saying that Samus is really strong and the gravity is reduced, so that's
It's
why
not
she jumped
realistic,
that high.
but it makes sense in terms of like suspension of disbelief.
Perhaps.
Yeah. I like heavy characters. Not even Metroidvania, just I like Castlevania, how it controls in the older ones. And I hate how La Mulana controls, because the jump's stupid. You
Yeah,
knew
if-
this was coming. You knew this
you're-
was coming.
If your game
So-
doesn't have complete air control, so many people just get unreasonably angry.
Well, no, Castlevania, the classic Vanias have no air control. Are you kidding me? And I'm more than fine with it. It's just Lama Lana couldn't decide. It's like, maybe I want some air control, some maybe I don't. Depends on my mood, depends on how you jump, and that's stupid. I think that's
Why?
dumb.
If
Because
anything, it makes it a higher skill ceiling because it lets you do more things
Lama Lana's
with the
already
jumping that you have.
DS enough. Do you really think it needs more skill ceiling?
Everything can always use more skill ceiling.
No. Lama Lana was fine without it. Does it even get better in Lama Lana too?
Yes, you have when you're doing your side jumps, you have partial air control. So if you can kind of stop your jumps horizontal momentum mostly.
Mostly. It
It's
sounds worse.
it's a bit better, but it's not complete control. You still have to be mindful of where you're jumping. But there's less of like making a jump and then you watch as you helplessly barely miss the platform and fall.
Sounds great.
Yeah. Yeah, I really hate how when you like walk off a platform, you have no air control, and right, you can't even double jump, can you?
I don't think so.
In
Yeah.
which one?
In both of them.
No,
I
if
mean-
you walk off, no, you're screwed. Wait, no. Yeah, no, you're screwed into that. You're screwed into that fall. Yeah.
Yeah. So you kind of have to like hop off, like you do a short hop, like vertical hop, and then you like air control off the platform, then fall down, and then you can use your double jump.
Mhm. Yeah, jumping is very important in platformers, and if your jumps are bad, people will hate your game.
Well, there's other reasons to hate Lama Lana. That's just like the main thing right now.
Okay.
Okay, you wanted to. Oh, I'll give you something else that controls terribly in Lama Lana. The claw, the sidewall grab. That's terrible, and
It
it's
controls great. You're just
it's
bad at it.
horseful at it. It's terrible because it's like you gotta like press it just right over to the left or right, or else it's not gonna like you, and you're gonna slip off and completely mess up that whole part. It controls bad.
It's a lot more forgiving than wall jumping in Super Metroid.
No, I'm much better at wall jumping in Super Metroid. That makes sense in Super Metroid. Not this.
Uh-huh.
The truth.
Like Super Metroid is really weird, but once you get used to it, it's pretty reliable.
Yeah. I can't do the bomb jump in Super Metroid. I will say that.
Hmm.
Bomb jumping feels a little I mean it's not finicky, it's just that it's precise and like, the preciseness doesn't feel like it makes sense sort of. Like you can't really tell unless you've done it a lot that it's actually going to work. And a lot
Yeah.
of platforming in games is I'm gonna I visualize they'll be able to make this jump, and then you do.
Yeah, and all the Metroids before Dread, I had to just like rhythmically press the button and hope I did it at the right rate. Um, but Dread, like, it increased the radius of the explosion where it would knock you upwards, so I could just like time it.
Yeah. They
Especially.
Oh, you go.
No, you go. I refuse.
Oh, fine. I was just gonna say Dread seemed to be a lot more forgiving with newer players. Like, even I could Shine Spark, which I've never been able to Shine Spark. Minus, like, that one part in Super Metroid where you had to. That was about it.
I never found it very complicated. Like, sometimes the hardest part was like, if you're doing a somersault jump, like getting out of the somersault jump to get into Shine Sparking. But you can you shoot to get out of it, and then you Shine Spark. So you'll have to like roll your fingers across fire and to jump.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, doing things that aren't shine sparking when you're trying to shine spark is the hard part of that for me.
Yeah.
Trying to platform to get to where you want to shine spark. I haven't done all of the Big and Zero mission. I've never done all of the shine sparking activities.
Yeah, 100%ing that requires some pretty extensive shine spark stuff. But yeah, once again, like the hard part isn't really the shine sparking, it's like the really tight platforming between the shine sparks.
Imagine doing tight platforming. Couldn't be me, a Castlevania player. Hey Shiva, welcome.
Yeah, so there are different kinds of jumps that in games. Usually it's determined by how high and how floaty it is, I think.
And if
Like
you have control, like how hard you press the button.
also the amount of airtime that you get. Like in Hollow Knight, you reach the peak of your jump and you go down pretty quickly. Doesn't really feel like you're weighty per se, but you have a lot of vertical control,
You
I
have
guess.
heft.
Where in other games you'll like deaccelerate as you're reaching the peak of your jump before you start falling again.
Yeah, that's something that makes a pretty large difference between different games is with how much momentum is a factor.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think Hollow Knight doesn't have very much momentum, but then like Ori does. But yeah, Hollow Knight was pretty heavily Mega Man inspired, and that's a game that's like one of the ones that's very focused on tight movements with no momentum.
I thought it was based on Zelda 2.
Movement on Hollow Knight?
Yeah, I thought someone no joke said they said in their dev, like their channel, that it was actually based on Zelda 2.
Interesting.
So like the pogoing is probably most similar to Zelda 2, but like dashing and movement. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, that's Mega
Yeah,
Man like.
Zelda 2 had momentum. I'm pretty sure.
It did. It did.
Yeah, because I remember like sliding around and stuff.
Speaking of momentum-based platforming, there's a game. There's a couple of versions of it, N or N plus or N plus plus. I'm not sure how the naming goes, but I've always found the platforming in that game to be very interesting because it is very momentum focused, and you have to dodge lots of projectiles and attacks and get through the level.
What game is it?
N plus plus.
Okay.
It
And I believe
started
it
out
had
a
previous
Flash.
versions called like N.
Yeah, I
In the
think
Flash one.
I think it started as a Flash game called N, and then N plus plus was like when they actually released a full game.
Mhm.
Yeah, if you can make a really unique experience, even though there's so many platforms, just by having momentum be a focus of it. Of course, that requires you to have level design that allows it.
And complements it. Like
Like a lot
Sonic
of
Mania.
yeah, a lot of N plus pluses levels. You have to use the momentum to get across the level.
Yeah, that makes sense. Unlike Unfair Souls.
That was interesting. It's kind of interesting how Kaizo-like games, I guess specifically I'm referring to the Kaizo Mario. People get really creative with the amount of mechanics that they have available. And they just, every possible mechanic you can abuse is abused at some point in order to make a really hard level.
Mhm.
Like, You have, like the springs you jump on in Mario, but you can carry them around and stuff. So you'll have to like manage those in order to get through the level while also doing your normal platforming.
This is why I don't even fire in Mario. As much as I love platforming games, I'm not always the best at them.
Yeah, a lot of platforming can be difficult when it is timing based and the timing is tight.
Yeah, a lot of times it's also like one of those binary success failure things. So you they have a lot of instant death.
Yeah.
Yeah, instant death is not my favorite mechanic in platform.
Same.
Kind of a staple of Classicvania.
Yeah, for pits and stuff, thankfully, but not enemies.
Good thing La Milana is so forgiving.
Oh, you say
Yeah.
that. That's only because I have so many health upgrades at the end.
You're meant to have those health upgrades. This isn't like Castlevania where you spend 3 hours grinding to get that health up.
You don't have to spend 3 hours. You just explore and they're everywhere. Or you fight a boss and you get it. God. Like Castlevania.
Is that why you quit playing La Milana?
No, that's because finals are coming up. I'm stressed. I'll probably play it after. That and I have to figure out the puzzle.
Just the one.
For now. I don't even know how far I am in the game. I just want to get to my Bugs Bunny, man.
I don't know what that means.
After La Milana, I'm gonna play Bugs Bunny, Lost in Time.
Oh, yeah. Is that a platformer?
Yes, it is actually a 3D platform.
Oh. Oh, we haven't even talked about how controls are different in 3D games
Oh, that's true.
versus 2D games.
You have a third dimension.
Wow, it's almost like it added a third dimension to our conversation.
Oh, band.
Yeah. Yeah, so you have games like A Hat in Time or Mario 64, really, and those have to control a lot differently than their 2D counterparts. So a lot of that is because they have different level design. You know, if you had a 3D game and you really wanted to make it a linear hallway that was identical to a 2D Mario game, you could, and it'd be pretty similar. It wouldn't be very interesting.
Yeah, I can tell you right now, all the 3D Castlevanias have not bad controls. Like, the controls are great on the ground, but then once you get into the air, they're just trash. Just never do it. But then
Yeah,
you got
That's a pretty common thing in 3D games. Because it's really hard to space properly with the way cameras work in 3D games.
yeah, but Mario did it just fine, I think. All of like the 3D Marios have done it perfectly. Metroid Prime, I think, had it control incredibly well when you were jumping. It felt nice to jump, like you didn't feel stunted or anything.
Well, Mario doesn't have, like, jump attacks, really.
You can jump on people, and then
Yeah,
you
you
can
jump
do the
on-
dive.
It was pretty much all, like, just jumping on things, though. So it's, like, just more platforming. Your attacks were platforming.
That's true. Well, not so much in Odyssey. Also, this game has bad language. I don't like that. He
Yeah,
needs
we're gonna
to
get
understand
demonetized.
that we're a channel that doesn't allow fucking swearing on here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your employer told you not to talk to Electrohead. Why are you talking to Electrohead?
Because my employer told me not to talk to Electrohead.
I
That's
see.
very fair.
Yeah, so 3D, I mean, a lot of games have, some form of platforming, even if they're not if they don't have a focus on platforming. Like, you have plenty of 3D games where you can jump. Metroid Prime, I mean, you have platforming, but you don't have a lot of it, really. At least not a lot of uh, hard platforming.
Yeah, a lot of
Decent.
like 3D action games have jumping just like in there as part of combat, and they're like, oh, we have a jump, so we have to have platformer sections, and then those platformer sections tend to suck.
Is the stream only buffering for me? Being very slow.
I don't know. I'm watching it on because I'm streaming. I'm not watching it on stream.
I see.
Yeah, I'm not seeing any issues
Okay.
watching it through
It's,
Twitch.
yeah, if I randomly cut out, you know why.
Oh,
Yeah.
it begins.
Anyway, yeah, so some games though, like I had in time in the Mario games, as I was mentioning, like they're completely focused on platforming. That's how you interact with the levels, really, by platforming through them.
Yeah, they're platforming
And
collectathons. That's their whole thing.
that kind of, like, I think the difference between that kind of platforming and just your generic 3D platforming, it's a lot more pronounced than comparing like 2D game to a 2D game that's more platforming focused. If you think about Metroidvanias, I mean, some of them obviously have more involved platforming because of the abilities at your disposal, but some you just have abilities and also you can jump. Like, there's not much to it.
Yeah.
You're playing Unworthy, you're not about to go through the path of pain. But like the way, say, I had in time controls is totally different than any generic 3D game that has jumping, really.
I felt like the basic controls for platforming were pretty similar to most other 3D games. Like there were some additional things that were unique. But, like the very core platforming like physics felt pretty similar.
Maybe. I enjoy platforming in games that aren't built for platforming and using it to abuse the level design. Like jumping onto things in Dark Souls, or if some games are clearly not designed for jumping around even though they have jumping, like especially some first-person shooters, and you can jump to strange places and possibly get out of the map.
Mhm.
I don't think that happens as much in 2D games.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier to rein someone in 2D.
2D platform have fall damage.
I guess that's another thing we can discuss with regards to controls, whether fall damage is a good thing.
Oh, I was gonna say control schemes and controllers is a good thing too. And if your game doesn't have changeable controls, I will be sad and mad. Looking at you, Cyber Shadow. Stupid double tap to parry. I hate it. I hate it. It's the
Yeah,
worst.
nowadays, especially, you really need a customizable control scheme for one, lots of people will be using different types of controllers on your game. You know, if it's a PC game at least, you can't be guaranteed that someone is using just the controller you designed it for. You believe
Well,
now, even among like keyboards, people have different keyboards and layouts and stuff.
well, like the idea of the double tap to like do something, that's generally not something you can customize. Kind of like a macro on like existing control.
Yeah.
So it would be interesting if you could customize that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's a bit more involved than like probably the generic remapping software that you can use for, you know, any Unity project or whatever,
Mhm.
because those exist.
Yeah, there used to be a menu, like a launcher menu, where you could set all the controls and then they would map to the thing, but they got rid of that. Um, Now there's a new input thing where it decouples the controls from the um like the actual controller input from the like in-game input. So you like create an event and then you can tie controls to the event.
I see.
And so then you can like use that event and then you could have your controller menu where you change the controls that are tied to that.
Yeah, definitely one of those quality of life things that weren't as important previously for many people.
Oh, I think that it was still important to people, but it just wasn't really like people didn't worry about it. Like developers didn't worry about it as much. But I guess back in like the NES days, it wouldn't have mattered as much because it's like, okay, are you gonna swap A and B? Like you have two buttons.
Yeah. Atari, you only have one. Good luck.
Yeah. Right.
Just hold the controller upside down if it matters that much to you.
But yeah, even like with the two buttons, there's like select and cancel, and even today, it seems like there's a lot of games that have them backwards from each other.
The Switch be like? It's really stupid. It's like, no, B goes on the other side. Why would you have it on the wrong side like Nintendo?
Hmm.
I hate it. It's dumb. So then all these games have it where it's like, oh, A is on the very bottom. Alright. B is on the very left. You're on the right. I'm like, no. That's not right. No.
Yeah, buttons and especially button labels. I mean, people try to adhere to previously set uh not standards, convention, because it's more convenient for people playing the game if it's similar to something that they've played previously, but there's always that one thing that's different that catches people off guard and messes with their muscle memory.
Yeah, like I was trying to play Dragon's Dogma and Genshin Impact at the same time,
Oh
and
no.
all of the controls are almost exactly backwards from each other. So like attack is on the right button in Genshin Impact, but it's on the left button in most games. And then the accept cancel are swapped. So like there was some time that I was like trying to talk to an innkeep like some merchant and I pressed the attack button instead of the like talk button because they were backwards. And so like I wound up attacking them and then they're like, "Oh no, we have to arrest this guy because he's violent." And so I got thrown in prison. And like the way Dragon's Dogma works is it doesn't have like, or I think it does have saves, but most of the time it's just like keeps going continuously, and it doesn't autosave very often.
Yeah, to me it always feels bad when you cause something permanent or semi-permanent just from like a controller mishap.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, if I press this button at the wrong time, I've borked my game.
Mhm.
Better not do that. I think generally games should be lenient about that sort of thing. Like if you attack an NPC once in Dark Souls, they'll tell you to, hey, cut that out before they actually aggro on you and try to murder you.
That's usually Elder Scrolls. They'll be like, I'm on your side, and then if you attack them again accidentally or something, you can, like, block and then talk to them, and they'll usually de-aggro. If they like you enough.
Mhm. Yeah, usually it just like makes them like you less.
Yeah.
And then if you do it too many times, they dislike you enough and then start attacking.
I mean, Cauldrath, if I came to your house and we started getting attacked by hordes of undead and I kept accidentally hitting you with my sword, you'd probably be angry at me. Getting hit with a sword isn't fun.
I mean, in real life, getting hit with a sword probably means you're dead.
I mean,
So.
it depends. Probably hurts a bit. Maybe the sword, the swing was already, it already passed through a zombie, so it's not as powerful.
Or it's just a glancing blow.
I'm glad I brought my smart sword. I can hit people. It won't hurt bad people.
Who tells the smart sword, what bad really means?
Bro,
What if the smart sword,
it's Wand of Gamelon or whatever. Do you think anyone knows? Or is it Faces of Evil? It's one of the two.
becomes sentient, develops its own ethical code. Determines that you were the bad person all along.
Or just everyone's bad.
That too. See, the things that automatically happen can also factor into controls. Like, something that I tend to think of is I watched a video about Dead Cells where it talked about how the game corrects your mistakes for you, such as if you say drop down from a platform next to an enemy and you attack but you're still facing the wrong way, the game will turn you around to attack the enemy. And that makes the game feel more fluid and less frustrating because it doesn't feel like you got locked into a mistake that you made that really is kind of not important. You know, you pressed one button a millisecond before you pressed the other button before you should have pressed it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in like fighting games, that's like almost the entire gameplay is pressing the buttons in the right order at the exact right time.
Yeah, but those are
Gross.
fighting games. Dead Cells is not a fighting game.
It's a game where you fight.
but it's a Metroidvania, and Metroidvanias are fighting games.
You fight things in many Metroidvanias.
Almost all of them, don't you?
There's plenty of games where you don't fight things.
For Metroidvanias,
Yeah.
like.
Hmm.
Do you consider it fighting them in Yoku's Island Express?
Yes, you're fighting things. You're using your pinballing to attack things. And using the noisemaker, I mean that's an attack.
Hmm.
You're hurting people's ears. If I came to your house and I just started blasting an air horn outside your door, you'd feel attacked, wouldn't you?
Some
Maybe.
jimmies would be rustled. Sure.
Yeah. Teslagrad doesn't have an attack move, but like you fight bosses by like pressing switches and then it like activates stuff that defeats the boss.
In the trolley problem, is moving the lever a form of attack?
I mean,
That's
yeah, because, well, I think either one is an attack because, I mean, people are dying regardless.
If you do nothing, is it really an attack?
Yes,
Yeah,
because
so-
you have the choice.
so that's it's not a question. This is a different question than the trolley problem. Like the base trolley problem. Base trolley problem is like a question of morality. Just because something isn't an attack doesn't mean it's moral.
Lack of action can be very immoral, depending on the circumstances.
Right. And that's what the trolley problem is.
Yes.
But the trolley problem is probably outside of the scope of what we wanna
Controls
discuss.
in a Metroidvania.
Yeah. we could probably talk about the trolley problem for the entire rest of the stream, but that's probably beyond the scope of what we're looking for here.
Perhaps.
Now, if the lever is a QuickTime event, is it a control?
Well, you said before that QuickTime events were controls.
That is very. I still believe.
So, you know.
But if it's a quick time event, is it an attack? If it's not a
Yes.
control.
Attacks don't have to be controlled.
So that means that you don't have to intentionally do something for it to be an attack?
I mean, if it's a cutscene and your character attacks, I mean, you didn't do it.
Cutscene attacks are always the worst. It's like you're used to seeing your character doing a certain set of moves, and then they just do something weird looking, and it doesn't have the effects you would think it would based on the gameplay you've experienced.
They
Or
actually
no.
do something cool.
Yeah, good old ludonarrative dissonance. I'm gonna say it because it sounds right.
Like Devil May Cry, where his bullets actually hurt things in the cutscenes.
Yeah, basically. Weapon controls. There are many
Weapon
different types of weapons, and having, say, if your game has a lot of different types of weapons, some can be light, some can be heavy, those alter the way you control your character.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's interesting.
And it depends on the game too. If like, oh, you can hold it up for and charge for a more powerful attack, kind of like what Super Metroid does, or even in Elder Scrolls, if you hold it longer, you're gonna do a more powerful attack.
Yeah, people like being able to change the inputs that they have available because maybe they don't like this one input, maybe they want to do the other input instead.
Yeah, Monster Hunter is probably one of the games that has the most like unique weapon-based inputs. Like every single weapon controls very differently.
Every single weapon type, the ones within a
Well-
type,
well,
from what
yeah.
I've seen, control exactly the same.
Well, yeah. But they have a lot of different types as well. And even ones that seem like they'd be similar can be pretty different in how like the minutia works.
Almost like playing a different game.
Yeah.
Imagine
But
not
just-
charging in every game that you play and just being a complete and utter tank.
But just having different movesets, but the way you interact with things as well. You may have a different strategy using one weapon over another. Changes the entire approach.
Kind of reminds me of actually. Because I mean, in Circle of the Moon 2, you get 8 characters at the end, all who control differently, all who pretty much have their own different jump heights, their own sizes, their own movement speed at times, and of course different attacks.
Talking about Curse of the Moon.
Huh? Oh yeah, sorry, Curse of the Moon. There's too many COTMs, okay? Gosh.
Something I don't like in character switching game is when you can't control the order that you switch characters.
That's fair.
Well, it depends on how fast you can switch characters. If you can switch fast enough, it's just like you have to count how many slots you need to go through to the character you want.
Yeah.
That's true.
And thankfully, Circle of the Moon, or Curse of the Moon 2 and 1 are very responsive on that. I mean, it's almost instantaneous. It's not like Castlevania 3 where you gotta sit there for 20 seconds waiting for the shimmy shimmy out and in.
Well, that one you only had access to 2 characters at a time, didn't you?
Yeah.
Still, there was a game I played recently that had character switching, and sometimes I'll pick up a character and I'm like, well, now this just messes up all of my muscle memory for switching to the character that I want, because I can only cycle forward. Makes the game
Then you best
feel,
learn.
yeah, ability.
But then you have to keep relearning. Like every single time they add a character, it increases by 1 the number of times you have to press character switch to get to the first character. So yeah, that is something to consider when doing your controls, is like making sure that the player doesn't have to relearn something they've already mastered because you changed it.
Spoiled it?
Yeah, I've been like refreshing the stream page and stuff. I can't get the video to work.
Oh no.
It's
Well, we're
very
not
sad.
really paying that much attention to the game, so.
I mean, I am actually. I'm
Yeah.
waiting to see if you actually get through this area.
I haven't been disconnected from the call yet, so
Yet.
it's good.
Yeah, like I could just murder everyone and get through here. But I'm like, nah, I'm gonna try to stealth my way through.
Hey, I did that too. I have played this game recently.
It's like, I'm gonna try to not be the most murdery person ever.
Well, he told you not to kill, so I mean.
Yeah.
So I think you murdered someone 2 areas back.
I murdered 4 people already.
Oh my god.
Yeah, so controls for a game are important, but so is the physical controller. And how you
Yes.
hold it, the tactile feel of the buttons or keys, the layout.
Oh yeah, do we want to talk about the Steam controller?
I don't
No,
know much
I don't
about
care about the
Steam
Steam
controller.
controller. I'm eyeing that Panda controller. I want that. I need that for games.
I'm not familiar with the Panda controller.
Future linked me in it. It's essentially the GameCube controller, but better.
Oh, that one.
Yeah.
Why would I want the GameCube controller?
Because the GameCube controller, in my opinion, is the best control scheme ever developed for.
But you only have
see.
1 left trigger.
No, they're adding 2.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Don't worry. They're adding in the other one.
I've been using for a long time a random DualShock 4 controller. I'm using something that requires a controller.
Yeah,
But I'm usually comfortable using a keyboard for things.
yeah, I like the Dual Shocks, but the latest one, the like right trigger keeps going out on me.
I'm lucky, I guess, because I've never had problems with like controllers, and I've had them for a while. Maybe I got them before they started manufacturing them with the terrible springs or whatever it is that's causing problems in so many controllers nowadays. It's
The
another
thing is,
thing.
like, I I never had an issue with controllers before, like this generation, and then just like I had a ton of problems. Like I think I've gone through 3 DualShock 4s. I got one of the 8-bit Do um, like Pro controllers, one of the first ones, and the face buttons. One of them started sticking. Then I wound up replacing the pad inside, which fixed that. But then I put it together wrong and broke the left trigger. Um, so now I'm on one of the 8-bit Do Pro 2s, which I haven't had any issues with yet. So hopefully that keeps working.
I actually have a spare DualShock 4 controller sitting under my desk right now, and I just picked it up to like look at it since we're discussing controllers, and there's some sort of like adhesive residue on the D-pad, and I have no idea where this came from, and I'm really concerned. Keep my controllers clean.
Yeah, I need to clean my controllers. One of my
Haven't
GameCube
used-
ones is getting deteriorated.
Yeah, I haven't used that one in a while. But perhaps in transport it touched something it shouldn't have, since I will still move it around if I change my physical location, just in case I need it. I mean, I like the layout of the DualShock 4, it's fine, but I'm not particularly picky when it comes to controllers. Probably use anything.
I hate Xbox controllers. I refuse to use them.
I was about to say they've gotten pretty standardized, so they're almost all exactly the same now. What do you not like about the Xbox ones?
Too beefy. I see. I'm
Oh, are you
small.
talking about original Xbox?
Yeah,
like the
well, and the stuff people still use actually a lot for their computers. It's like, too big. Also, I don't like the white and the black button placement. I hate that. I hate that shit. I don't know if they've changed it, but I hate it. Also, I just don't like Xbox in general, and I don't like giving them money. So.
Yeah, white and black buttons haven't existed since original Xbox.
Well, they were gross, so it's good they got rid of them.
Yeah, once Xbox 360 came out, they basically just became DualShock controllers.
Yeah, but DualShock did it better.
They're almost exactly the same. Like, I actually prefer the Xbox 360 controller for, like, general gaming more than the DualShock 3, but the DualShock 3 has a way better D-pad. Like, the D-pad on the Xbox 360 controller just sucks, but then everything else is good.
Maybe you can Frankenstein together your own controller that meets all your needs. Speaking of controllers, it's fun seeing videos of people making unconventional controllers in order to do something generic that sounds hard, like playing Dark Souls.
With
You know, someone will
bananas.
be like, yeah, bananas, exactly, that's what I was thinking. But people will use things, like Guitar Hero controllers or whatever as well.
That's hilarious when they do that, though.
Yeah, controllers like mostly just a bunch of buttons, and so if you can arrange something to be a button, then you can map it to a controller. I think they also had to like map some of the bananas to be like the analog stick left, right, and forward and down.
Wait, what?
When they did Dark Souls with bananas.
Oh god, I didn't even hear about that.
But yeah, somebody just hooked up a bunch of bananas to their computer or whatever, and they beat Dark Souls with it. And basically the way it works is that like hitting the banana counted as, or pressing on the banana at least, counted as pressing a button. And some of the bananas had to be like mapped to the analog stick.
That's
better beat the game in the next couple days before the bananas start going bad.
Yeah. Yeah, they start getting less firm, and then the controls aren't as responsive.
When it
Good
gets
thing our
brown, you know
controls
it's
aren't
time to
organic.
switch out your analog stick.
Yeah.
Then it's time to make banana bread.
Yeah, like using them as controllers probably softens them up quite a bit too.
Yeah.
So even better banana bread.
Man, I want banana bread though. You can freeze it for a while. You can make a whole loaf of banana bread and have it whenever you need it.
For
Anyways,
emergencies.
yeah, just exactly. Let's talk about the Wii Controller, and all the random accessories, extra controllers that they started selling. I think
I
that's like,
actually just started playing Ring Fit Adventures.
oh,
Have you guys seen that?
What one is it?
Ring Fit Adventures is
Oh,
a Switch
God.
game.
I do know of that.
The ring.
You squeeze it and stuff.
Yeah, like you squeeze it, and that like counts as like a button. Well, actually, I think it's analog. Like it can detect how far you're squeezing it in, and then you can also pull it. So it, like has like it's kind of like a analog stick axes, where like squeezing it in is positive and pulling it apart is negative. And then it also has like the motion controls where it can tell like where you're aiming it.
Yes, I believe my family owns one of those. I have not used it. It is interesting, and it's nice that there are more ways to get people motivated to exercise. And so, unfortunately, something that plagued the Wii, as we're all aware, painfully, is that many of its games, had to use the motion control gimmick. And if you didn't really like pointing around all the time using that controller, then you wouldn't be able to enjoy a lot of games that you may have enjoyed if they had a different control scheme.
Yeah, like some of them had it shunted in like Twilight Princess, where it's just like you shake the controller and it's the equivalent of pressing an attack button.
Yeah, and then I know lots of accessories that don't really. It's not like a new controller, but of like the Wii gun or something like that.
Oh yeah.
Just the
Wasn't
way
that
you hold it.
like didn't that like not actually do anything? It just was something that you stuck the controller into.
Yeah, it's literally just like a piece of plastic. You put the. I think it had both the nunchuck and the regular remote. Let's see, it's called the Wii Zapper, according to Wikipedia. Yeah, it
Oh, the
has.
gun?
Yeah,
Yeah!
yeah.
The
You
gun! The Wii
point.
Zapper!
You point with a remote, and then you have a
Yup.
nunchuck behind it.
Because
It's so weird.
it could have been used to make a new Duck Hunt. They could have made a new Duck Hunt with that shit, but then they're like, no, we're just gonna use it for Link's crossbow training.
Oh, there's a prototype Zapper on the Wikipedia page, an image, and it looks more like a gun, and it looks like they had. It just looks a lot better than the one they ended up with.
Oh, it was
But
more expensive to make then.
yeah, you had the normal Wii remote, but you also have things like the Wii balance board. Uh, I believe there were instrument-themed Wii controls as well. yeah, a lot of accessories for your controller in order to do a different gimmick than the one you're currently doing. Unfortunately, I think when you design a game around the way it's intended to be controlled in that way, you can really uh, hurt its longevity.
Hmm. Well, the Wii U is kind of like the first system that really did motion control, so anytime something new comes up in the game industry, people don't know how to do it right. And then, like, somebody does it right once, and then everyone copies that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, there's stuff like the Power Glove.
Yeah, the Power Glove actually had pretty, like, similar technology to the Wii Remote, where it was like a camera that saw the device. Or wait, no, there was like a sensor that the Power Glove could see with its camera. And then, like, even modern VR does the same thing.
See, now that we have VR for motion controls, I'm sure it's less enticing to make a motion control for your game. It's not VR.
Yeah.
Does Nintendo still do weird controllers?
I mean, they do the Wii,
They did
like,
the
Lord of the
cardboard
Rings.
stuff. They do Labo. You kidding
Oh,
me?
yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Forgot about that, honestly. If you look up just weird video game controllers, there's a lot of strange things that you can find. And it
Oh,
makes you
yeah.
wonder if some of the if it weren't for a lot of the culture around controllers, what kinds of weird looking things would we have today? Like does the, you know, controller shape, does that just arise naturally? Or could we be playing video games on spheres?
Pondering the orb to play your game.
Oh,
No, I think the shape evolved because I mean it feels good in your hand. It's ergonomic, so you know people put time in it and thinking, okay, what works the best for making people not have sharp edges that jab into your skin.
Well, that's the thing, if you have a sphere, there are no sharp edges. The more I think about this, like, the better it sounds. Just like a big ball you hold in your hand, and it's got buttons on, like, all sides of it.
well, then it isn't smooth anymore. I think the biggest problem with that is you go, like, get lost of where the things are on the controller.
Well, sure, but you wouldn't be able to see them as easily. But muscle memory is very good at helping you figure that out.
Like, maybe if you put some indentations on it so that you can, like, find the, like, where you are on the orb.
Yeah, you'd have like a front to the orb, and then however, you know, maybe you can order different types of hand positions that change where the buttons are, and you could, instead of having arbitrary button labels, you could name them in a way so that you know at a glance which one is which. Maybe they're numbered like 1 through 8 or whatever from left to right, or something like that, or they
Sounds
correspond
like
to your fingers.
sounds like one of the mice, pad on the side, but
I mean, it has as much functionality as a regular controller. Don't think it really have much more or less. Just pondering things.
You're pondering the orb.
Pondering. Well, I'm
Always
pondering
have to ponder them.
things about orbs. I'm not pondering the orb. Oh man, once that meme's over, this episode won't age very well.
I've actually I've seen things referencing the meme, but I'm not actually familiar with the origin.
The meme is the reference,
Yeah,
basically.
the meme is the reference.
It's an image of like a sagely looking man pondering his orb, and then as memes do, the image is changed in some way, or some other image is changed to resemble it, reference it. That's the joke, is how creative you can get with your reference. Which are the best types of memes, instead of the ones where it's just repetition of something.
I mean, it technically is repetition. Just
Well, sure.
repetition with more creativity. Now, as we're talking about pondering, someone just made a pondering joke in one of my discords. So, you know, there is that. Ah, dead meme.
Oh my goodness. There is a katana-shaped controller for the PlayStation 2.
Okay, you gotta send a pic. Please put a pic in streaming.
I will send a picture of it.
And then, if I'm feeling creative enough, I forgot to record again. Damn it, I always do that. I'll put the picture up in the screen on the side. What the hell is this? What?
It seems like you can actually
Draw
partially
it?
pull out the blade as well.
That is whack AF.
Such a weird gimmick.
That's also one of the weird things that Nintendo does, is like, instead of having these completely custom controllers, they have like a shell, and then you shove the Wiimote or the Switch thing into it.
Yeah. Probably because making the actual controller is more expensive, instead of just making a weird shaped piece of plastic.
Well, sometimes it actually does stuff, like the ring, or the ring fit thing has an actual additional functionality besides just what the Switch controller does.
Yeah, the ring is interesting. It's unique. It's different. I like the ring.
Yeah, I haven't gotten a chance to play very much of the game, but it seems like it could be interesting. And I'm always looking for an excuse to exercise without just exercising for the sake of exercising.
I need to X.
The one thing that I don't understand is, why are there no gacha fitness games? Seems like that would be perfect. Like, you take all those predatory practices, and then instead of them existing just to make you spend money, you use it to get people to exercise.
Gross. Also, wait, aren't those triathlons and stuff? This sounds like marathons. Like the Olympics is the ultimate gotcha.
Is that a gotcha?
Because you gotta roll high on luck or else you're screwed. Won't get the gold.
I don't know that that's how it works.
I don't know. There are some interesting and expensive specialized controllers, like your fight sticks, your HOTAS. Or,
oh yeah, people are crazy about
game.
their fight sticks.
Yeah. And I mean, they are pretty cool. Because you're not using that kind of stick isn't really something you would do if you weren't, if you didn't have a HOTAS for that specific purpose. You know, there's a certain enjoyment factor just in handling the stick, I think.
Phrasing.
Well,
Yeah.
how else should I phrase that? I mean,
I don't know, but just a different way than that.
yeah, I have the very cheap. I have a very cheap one. I use that for mostly just playing Elite Dangerous and a couple other random things called the Thrustmaster. Speaking of phrasing,
Disgusting.
I'm pretty sure Thrustmaster's been around for a long time too.
well, a Thrustmaster. There's probably different models of it.
Yeah.
There's that. Those are more interesting than steering wheels, I think, which another sort of vehicular control. Seems to be where the most interesting specialized controllers are. Because controlling a vehicle can be pretty, you know, you may not be able to do it with a controller, like a normal controller, effectively.
People are really serious about their driving setups too.
Yeah.
Like I have a friend who like has a VR setup with a steering wheel and then like pedals and a stick shift.
Jesus.
Man, if I would just there. I don't mean to judge people. I just don't find driving sims as interesting as flight sims because driving is something most people can do, and flying is not.
I think it's kind of like one of those things where it's like, okay, it's a reasonable dream to like have a Ferrari, but it's not a reasonable dream to like own a 747. And so
Yeah.
like they're like living out their fantasy.
Perhaps. I mean, or you just find video game driving enjoyable. I mean, I haven't played too many racing games. I'm sure you're not, you know, driving around racing tracks every day in your four-seater sedan.
You don't know. Some people have hobbies that they do every day.
True.
Hobbies.
Metroidvanias.
I mean, if you're gonna drift around and flip your car into a ditch, you're better off doing that in VR.
That's true. Doing all the reckless and stupid stuff.
Yeah.
That's one of the great things about video games is you can do so much stuff without any consequences.
Just don't cyberbully people in video games.
Yeah.
Those do have consequences.
Yeah. Single player games, no consequences.
Bully all the NPCs.
Oh, for me it's the opposite.
Excuse me?
It's a joke.
Bastard, you have something to tell us.
I do not bully people, but I do respect NPCs.
I
You
respect him.
NPCs more than regular people?
I mean, depends on the person. You know, now I'm thinking about flight sticks and stuff, and I want to like go buy a flight sim or something because I haven't done that in a while. But yeah, controllers are interesting. What other specialized controllers are there people use? I mean, obviously you have VR controls, which are pretty different from regular controllers.
Yeah, VR controllers are basically just a Wii remote.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but yeah.
I really like the Steam Vive ones. Like, I prefer them over the Oculus. A few bit.
I've never used VR. Cannot comment on the feel of the controller.
My friends got VR. I still need to beat Half-Life Alyx. That game controls very fun.
Yeah, I
should
haven't
do
do
that.
that either.
don't even like Half-Life. I don't even like shooters or sci-fi games, and that one's like too good.
Yeah. I'll have to put it on my list if I ever play a VR game.
Yeah, I recommend it.
It reminds me of a lot of VR games are, they have, your thing is like, oh, it's interactable, you have physics applied to everything. Everything's an object you can move.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's interesting to think about when thinking about how you control a character, because really, what is controlling a character if you don't interact with your environment in any meaningful way?
Yeah, I feel like a lot of the VR games I played are just like physics-based games.
And it makes sense. It's immersion, I suppose. Or, I mean, when you're walking around every day, you can't just have the satisfaction of like pushing over a tower of blocks or something. Those don't usually appear in my routine, at least. I don't know about yours. But
I
you
mean,
can
there's
do that kind
probably lots of places, like you could probably go into some sort of warehouse and then just like push stuff over, but then there's consequences for doing that.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, physics also can impede the way you control your character in some ways. And that can be frustrating for some people. If the control is taken away because, maybe you're playing Breath of the Wild and you're tumbling down a mountain for 30 seconds and you can't do anything to stop it.
yeah. Yeah, that is the thing about physics-based games is they usually have like states based on the physics, whereas things that are less physics-based, they just like continuously manually select the states, and so they don't keep you in them as long.
Yeah. Plus, physics can be generally unreliable and imperfect in video games. So you will have instances where it feels like the game is being unfair because something unrealistic and unexpected happened in the physics engine, which then caused terrible things to happen to you in the game.
Yeah, like in physics-based puzzle games. So in non-physics-based puzzle games, the puzzle like if you do the same thing, then the puzzle will do the same thing, and so the solution will, like, if you have this exact solution, then it will always work, or sometimes it will always either work or not work, for a given solution. But then for physics-based games, there's usually like some things where it'll like kind of work or kind of not work, and then like sometimes it'll work and it feels less reliable than the non-physics based puzzle games.
Physics-based puzzles are not puzzles. They're usually activities.
They're often
And
activities, but you can still make a puzzle that's physics based.
you can, but think about what do you think of when you think of physics-based puzzle? It's usually like a ball rolling down a slope and you gotta time some sort of interaction to change the ball. That's like, to me, that's the most generic physics-based puzzle.
I feel like Portal had some puzzles in it, and that's a physics based game.
That's true. Those are puzzles. Those are physics-based. So, while portals are closely related to physics, not everything you do with the portals is like, increasing momentum or whatever. So much of it is.
Well, momentum is physics.
Yeah, but sometimes it's just like, how do I get this? How do I make a portal in this area? And not, abusing the portal physics to catapult yourself over something. And I'm not sure where the line is between what is physics and what is not.
Yeah, I guess there's not a hard line. Like, you could say that Mario has physics because it has momentum. But it doesn't tend to, like, let you transfer momentum between things.
Yeah, I mean, any game, you need some sort of physical laws that dictate how you interact with your environment. Like, that's just how things work. It's how life works. So sometimes if a game, emulates physics particularly well, but it's not running, say, physics engine, then you could say it doesn't have physics. Or you could say it does. You can say whatever you want. Seems that we are close to wrapping up. So do we have any closing thoughts on controlling controllers in general?
Heavier characters are better. There, I said it.
What's
Sorry,
wrong
what?
with floaty characters?
I don't like floaty characters. La Milana has really turned me off to floaty characters, honestly. Like, Samus is fine because I'm used to playing Metroid, but like, I like my heavier boy. Like, even Castlevania, or medium to heavier, not light. La Milana is light, and I hate it.
Man, the more you go without playing La Milana, the more you hate it.
Well, I hated it to begin with, in terms of some of how it plays. Like, I love the puzzles, I love the music, graphics are fine, just how it controls sucks.
I can kind of get behind that. I think I would have less of an issue if the whip was longer.
Yeah, the whip is also... Well, thankfully now I just use the axe mainly, because the axe is nice. But...
But yeah, it feels like a lot of the bosses are designed around having a lot more range than you actually have.
Yeah, it's just you have to be very precise in where you're positioned, or else you'll either miss or you'll bump into the boss and take contact damage. It's quite annoying.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, using sub-weapons kind of makes up for the range problem.
Except I hate how sub-weapons aren't like... I don't know. The sub-weapons kind of suck, not gonna lie.
Mm-hmm.
Caltrops.
Where you have to keep buying them.
Yeah.
Some of them are quite useful. You have to learn how to use them.
Useful doesn't mean good, though, in my opinion.
What?
They also have to be fun.
I see.
Ain't always, sadly, the case.
And looking at this Katana controller again, I feel like obviously it's only designed for the one game, but man, trying to play something normal on this thing looks like a nightmare. So
somebody's probably beaten Dark Souls with it.
People can even find these. It's probably obscure and rare or something. Hardly produced. So you have on one side of this, on this sheath, you have the two thumbsticks, and then the D-pads in the middle, and then on the other side of it, closer to the hilt, you actually have buttons. And I just can't tell like how you're meant to use this. It seems like it'd be so weird to control.
I think you have to actually use it with one hand. Because you would hold it, like you would hold the one hand, like you would a regular katana, and then you would use one hand to control. I think so, dude. I think so. If you're meant to draw it, I think that's what you have to do.
Oh, my internet's dying right on cue.
Oh, perfect. Well, it's 10:30 for me, so... Yeah. Controllers and controlling it, they're both important. Remember that, kids, when you design your own game someday.
Yeah. You should acquire the PlayStation Katana and tell us how it feels. I'd really like to know.
That's the other lesson.
Buy it so then we don't have to buy it ourselves.
Play Sekiro with this thing. Pretty
I mean,
much
all you
need
need
one
is the
button
parry
anyways.
button,
Yeah. Actually be playable on this thing.
Oh my god. Well, thanks for tuning in to this week's episode, and have a nice night, everybody.
Good night.